holidays.
But that being said, we'll switch over to other little quarterback drama. But Nick, I don't know if you heard this, but Russell Wilson did not request a trade.
Yes, that did come out this weekend, I think, or maybe it was like late Friday or something. He was like, "Yeah, I didn't," and that's interesting because that had come up before. That they had said earlier in the offseason that he wanted out, and he's saying he didn't request a trade. I am always skeptical in situations like this because I don't know like what exactly you just don't know what exactly went on. Is he saying like technically I didn't request a trade, but like
Yeah,
did everything else? Like I mean, at the end of the day, it's hard to know, right? But I do think overall this is Russell Wilson sort of trying to smooth things over a little bit potentially if any of the fan base, any of his teammates thought maybe he was trying to bail. And I think that's a good thing overall for them, but interesting that he says he didn't request a trade. Um, because like I said, I mean, okay. Like I don't know. Sometimes I wonder about that stuff. Like there's a lot of guys that are like, "No, I didn't cheat on you" to their wife, and it's like, okay. Like technically you didn't, but like come on, man. Like, if I got a list of 15 things that you did that look like you cheated on your like, it's the same idea. I think it's like,
yeah,
yeah, but if he's having his agent kind of see what's going on and he's doing a little of this and doing a little of that, like the fact that he didn't kick the owner's door down and be like, I demand a trade. He those stories didn't leak for nothing. There was definitely some sort of like fact finding going on, some sort of like little bit of like who might want me. There had to be. There had to be.
for sure, absolutely. And I actually, I watched I think it was his press conference that he came out and he was talking about it. And I read a couple articles up on the situation, and from what it seems like, it seemed like his team, maybe not him himself, but definitely expressed their concerns. And when those weren't met with what they wanted to hear, it did seem like they did dig in for a trade.
Right.
And yeah, like you said, they may not have came out and actually requested that trade, but when your camp is, I mean, it's essentially the same thing, like you're saying. And I did see in there that one of the reporters asked him, like, well, you did have a list of teams. He's like, well, once I did find out, like, I was on, potentially on the trading block, I did mention that, oh, these would be the teams if you were to move me.
It's like
It seems very slick on Russell Wilson's side. It's like, oh, there's trade talks around me. So here's like, if I am gonna leave Seattle, here's the teams I want to go to.
yeah, it's like why
like,
and why would the team start trade talks? Like that's my thing. Is like why would they okay, so you didn't
yeah,
request a trade. So the Seahawks were like, you know who we should trade? I was looking
yeah,
at our roster and I was thinking about guys we could potentially trade. And with no indication from Russell Wilson in his camp, I think he is the perfect guy we could get rid of. There's no way that the team came up with that on their own. So it does seem a little bit like not really believable. And Russell Wilson has a quality to him where, sorry, I'm sure that the Seahawks fans are going to get pissed at me, but the reality is Russell Wilson has quality where I think people don't always think he's genuine. I think they think a little bit of his persona is a little bit bullshit and a little bit smoke and mirrors from time to time. And this feels like an example of like, dude, come on. Like, obviously you did something like it didn't come. Why would the team trade him? Why would they explore that on their own with no indication from him that he wanted out? That seems like
yeah.
silly. It seems like he's focusing on the semantics to be like, I mean, I didn't write on a piece of paper, I want a trade and slide it under the GM's door. Like, come on, man. Come on. Like,
Yeah, I almost wonder like how the Seattle Seahawks fan base thinks about this or feels about this because it did seem like, I mean, if you're just watching it from an unbiased opinion, it did seem like Russell Wilson was unhappy, and it did get bad enough to where trade talks were happening.
yep.
Whether that was he requested it or Seattle was like, oh, we can't have this guy talking bad about Pete Carroll, but also it's like I think when you're looking at an organizational thing, I think Russell Wilson would rank a little higher than Pete Carroll in that organization,
Yeah.
in terms of importance, like to the team and winning. But it seems like they got whatever was going on there worked out because you do have Russell Wilson coming out and saying these things, which I'm sure is to obviously mend those fences for the fan base and be like, hey, I'm saying go Hawks again in my IG videos. Like, it's all good. But I don't know if it is all good, but it'll be good for this season. And I'm sure Seahawks fans are happy to have him back for this season,
Oh yeah,
hopefully further in the future. But I think we could be running into a little bit of a hamster wheel situation here come next offseason again with Russell Wilson.
I agree.
So it'll just be something to, keep an eye on and see just kind of how much Russell Wilson has control over the offense this year, because I think that's going to be a big indicator whether he stays in Seattle or moves potentially tries to move on from that situation.
Yep.
Because after all, that is ultimately what he wanted, and he wants to be a top 5 quarterback of all time. And I think he's a guy that could do it, but we'll see. We'll
After
see,
this,
because running your own offense, it's tough.
it is like I think it's and how do you know that it's going to go the way that you've envisioned in your head? Like the
Sure.
team might be thinking they're giving you a lot of control. You might not think. I just after all this Russell Wilson stuff this offseason, I'm finding it harder to envision him as a Seahawk for his entire career.
Yeah.
It does seem like one of those things. I don't think Pete Carroll is going to be there his whole career. Pete Carroll I think is a little bit older at this point. I don't know that, and he's had some times
Yeah.
with that organization where he's kind of been in the hot seat, and so I don't know. I find it hard to imagine Russell Wilson is in Seattle his entire career, but at least for this season, he'll be around, and that
Yeah.
division is going to be absolutely brutal. So we'll see how it pans out.